I needed a break from my thesis. So, I went on a spontaneous spring break trip to a beach town with friends. It seemed like a fun idea. The beach town felt weird, though. It was a mix of rundown motels and colorful shops. Our motel had a faded sign and creaky floors. I thought it would be fun, but I felt a little out of place among the tourists. On our first night there, as we unpacked, Lisa found an old journal hidden behind a loose floorboard. At first, we laughed about it. The entries were odd, almost like dreams or stories. They talked about strange events and encounters, but they didn't seem real. As the days passed, weird things started happening. I heard whispers at night. Shadows darted outside our window. I felt like someone was watching me, but when I looked, nothing was there. The worst part? Each morning I found new entries in the journal. It seemed to know everything we did. I was uneasy. The others brushed it off, but I couldn't shake the feeling. One night I was lying in bed. I heard something scratching at the wall. My heart raced. I sat up and listened closely. Silence. Maybe it was just my imagination. But then the scratching started again. It felt like it was right next to me. I turned my head slightly and swear I saw a flash of a shadow disappear into the corner. The next day, I noticed a new entry in the journal. It said something like, "They feel me watching." I didn't tell the others. I didn't want to sound crazy, but I was scared. I kept telling myself I must be imagining things, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. When we finally got to the beach, I tried to relax. We had some fun in the sun, but I felt that unshakable vibe lingering. It was always there, like a shadow. On our last night, I couldn't sleep. I picked up the journal again, hoping for some answers. As I read through the entries, one stood out. It had the date written in my handwriting and mentioned our plans for the night. I dropped the journal, my heart racing. How was that possible? I looked at my friends sleeping soundly. I started to doubt myself. Maybe I was imagining everything. But I knew something strange was happening. Something that shouldn't be happening. Then I heard the scratching again. My breath hitched. I jumped up and looked out the window. There it was, a figure standing just outside. I froze. I couldn't breathe. Was I dreaming? It turned its head toward me, and I felt paralyzed. "Why are you still here?" it asked. A chill ran down my spine. I looked down at the journal, but it was gone. I had nothing but that sinking feeling that our spring break had been altered in a way I might never understand. I was trapped in a strange place with no one to help me. I just wanted to go home. The next morning I felt exhausted. I barely slept, my mind racing with the encounter from last night. I had to get out of the motel, so I decided to take a walk on the beach alone. I hoped the sound of the waves would wash away my anxiety. As I walked, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I glanced over my shoulder frequently, scanning the empty beach for signs of that figure. Nothing was there, but every shadow seemed to stretch longer, like it was reaching for me. I shook my head, trying to clear my thoughts. Just a trick of the light. I stopped at a small cafe by the shore for breakfast. The place was almost empty. I ordered coffee and sat outside, listening to the gentle crash of the waves. It should have been peaceful, but I kept replaying the figure's words in my mind. That's when I saw it. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed something washed up on the shore. I couldn't make it out at first. Curiosity got the best of me, and I walked closer. As I approached, I realized it was a piece of broken glass, jagged and sharp. But what caught my attention was the strange symbol etched into it. It looked almost like the ones described in the journal. Twisted lines, connecting in odd ways. I picked it up cautiously. Immediately a jolt of electricity shot through my hand, and I dropped it back into the sand. I couldn't help but glance around. Was this connected to the journal? A sudden urge to throw it away washed over me, but I couldn't. What if it revealed something important? The whispering was still fresh in my mind. I headed back to the motel where I found Lisa and the others lounging by the pool. I wanted to tell them about the glass, but I hesitated. They were already dismissive of my fears. Maybe they wouldn't believe me again. I sat down, forcing a smile. "Hey, did anything weird happen while I was gone?" I asked casually. Jason shrugged. Just the usual beach stuff. You know, waves, sun, good vibes. I opened my mouth to say more, but then something caught my attention. In the corner of my eye, I saw it again, the figure from last night. It was standing just outside the motel. My heart raced. Was it watching me again? I blinked and it was gone. I looked at my friends who were laughing and joking, oblivious. They couldn't see it, and that made me feel even more isolated. I glanced back towards the spot, scanning for any sign. Nothing. That evening we went for dinner in town. I had trouble focusing on the conversations, my mind still reeling from the day's events. My fingers drummed nervously on the table. I decided then and there, I had to confront whatever this was. I needed to know what was happening. When we got back to the motel, I headed straight for the journal. I found it tucked in my suitcase. The blank pages shimmered under the dim light. I flipped through them anxiously, searching for answers. As I turned to a fresh page, I saw something scrawled across it in dark ink. "Tonight is the night I will come for you." My hands trembled. I closed the journal quickly and tried to breathe. The scratching at the wall started again, louder this time. I was running out of time. Then I heard a soft, haunting whisper behind me. "Are you ready?" A chill ran down my spine. I spun around, but the room was empty. I had to act fast. This was just getting started. I couldn't sit still any longer. I needed answers, and I had to do it alone. I decided to go back to the beach where I found the glass. The darkness was creeping in, the sky painted in shades of orange and purple, but I felt an urgency that pulled me toward the water. The sound of waves crashing against the shore echoed in my ears, drowning out my thoughts. My heart raced as I stepped onto the sand, nervous and hyper-aware of my surroundings. I searched the area where I found the glass, hoping to find something, anything that could explain what was happening. As I walked along the shore, I noticed the water seemed oddly still. The moonlight cast a silver sheen on the surface, creating an almost hypnotic effect. Suddenly, I spotted a flash of light beneath the water. It flickered like a beacon. My instinct told me to turn away, but curiosity pushed me closer. I crouched down, peering into the dark water. The light faded, but then it returned, pulsing rhythmically. I extended my hand toward the surface, driven by a compulsion I couldn't explain. "What is this?" I whispered. Just then I heard a sound behind me, a soft rustle like footsteps in the sand. I turned, and there it was again, the figure. This time it was closer. I could make out its shape, tall, cloaked in shadows, but its eyes glowed with an unsettling light. "Who are you?" I shouted, my voice trembling. The figure didn't respond. Instead, it raised an arm slowly, pointing directly at me. It felt like a challenge, as if daring me to come closer. I shook my head, backing away. "What do you want?" Then my phone buzzed unexpectedly in my pocket. I pulled it out, eager for a distraction. It was a message from Jason, but the text froze me in place. "Don't go to the water. It's not safe." Panic clawed at my throat. I looked back toward the ocean, the pulsing light still beckoning. I knew I had to leave this place. With every ounce of strength, I turned and ran back toward the motel. The sound of my footsteps pounded in my ears, almost drowning out the whispers that seemed to call my name. I burst through the motel doors, and for a moment, I felt safe. But safety was fleeting. As I slammed the door shut, I felt it, a presence pressing down on me. It was suffocating, like a storm was brewing just outside. I locked the door, my heart hammering. Suddenly there was a loud thump against the wall. I jumped. The scratching returned, more frantic this time. I rushed to the window but saw only darkness pressed against the glass. "Get away from me!" I yelled. Then the whispers intensified, echoing around me. "You cannot escape!" I backed away, feeling the walls closing in. My mind raced as traces of dread consumed me. With no solid plan, I remembered the journal. Answers had to be there. I dashed to my suitcase, my hands fumbling to pull it out. But before I could reach it, the room was plunged into darkness. The power was out. I froze, heart pounding, the oppressive quiet filling the space around me. I was not alone. I could feel it watching. But from where? With the frantic whispers growing louder, I knew I had to confront this once and for all. I needed the journal. I needed answers. "Where are you?" I whispered into the darkness, fighting back panic. I took a deep breath and reached into the black night ahead. Then I heard it, a low, raspy voice echoing from behind me. "You've invited me in." A rush of ice flooded my veins as I faced whatever terror awaited me in the shadows. I screamed and stumbled backward until my back hit the wall. The voice echoed again, sending chills racing down my spine. "You've invited me in." My mind raced, trying to make sense of it. Was I hallucinating? Had I pushed my curiosity too far? I fumbled for my phone, but it was dead. A cruel joke, really. I strained my ears, listening for any sign of movement. Silence enveloped the room, thick and menacing. I wanted to bolt for the door, but my legs felt stuck in place. That's when I heard it again, soft but unmistakable. A gentle scratching at the door, like fingernails trailing along the wood. Suddenly, the whispers returned, coiling around me like a vine. "Come play with us," they murmured. I pressed my palms against my ears, trying to block them out. I had to focus. The journal. I had to find the journal. In a sudden surge of determination, I turned toward the suitcase once more. My fingers grabbed the zipper and I pulled it open, careful not to make another sound. The moonlight glimmered through the window, illuminating the contents. Clothes, a couple of beach towels, and then I saw it. The journal was buried beneath everything else. I yanked it out, my hands trembling. Glancing back at the door, I expected it to burst open at any moment. I flipped to the last page I had written on, desperate to find anything that might shed light on my increasingly warped reality. Lines of my hurried handwriting scrolled past. Memories spilled out in jumbled thoughts. Then my eyes caught something strange. Underneath my own notes was a drawing, a sketch scrawled in dark ink. It showed the shoreline, but at the center was a strange figure similar to the one I had seen earlier. It was surrounded by swirling waves that looked almost alive. A shudder crept up my spine as I noticed a date scrawled above the drawing, the same date as today. "What?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. Before I could process what it might mean, the thumping returned, more chaotic this time. The door creaked ominously, and I could hear the whispers clearly now. "Join us. You belong to us." The thumping grew louder, echoing off the walls like a heartbeat. I took a step back, clutching the journal tightly. With a sudden burst of courage, I shouted, "Stay back! I don't want anything to do with you." Silence fell, but it was pregnant with a tension that left me gasping. I could feel the heaviness in the room shift, as if something had paused and considered my defiance. And then, everything went still, almost too still. I glanced at the door, then back at the journal. In that moment of silence, the last piece of the puzzle clicked into place. What if this was all because of the glass? I flipped to the beginning of the journal, searching for anything about it. My breath hitched when I remembered the first page. I quickly turned to it, desperate to find the details of that night. That's when I saw it, a small note I hadn't noticed before. It was handwritten in a frantic scrawl. "The glass holds the truth. Beware the tide." I felt a surge of realization, but before I could comprehend it fully, another loud bang echoed against the door. The hinges rattled as the whispers crescendoed again. "Let us in." With terror coursing through me, I knew I had to do something. But in that moment I had no idea what. I felt a cold sweat break out across my forehead as that last bang faded into the night. The whispers intensified, brushing against my skin like icy fingers. Frantically I scanned the room, looking for anything I could use to defend myself. The old lamp on the bedside table flickered, its light dying in tandem with my hope. I grabbed it, feeling its weight in my hands. It wouldn't do much against whatever was trying to break through, but it was better than nothing. "Why won't you share your truth?" A voice echoed softly, overlapping with the whispers. It was softer this time, almost like a caress. I couldn't tell if it came from the door or from the shadows in the room, but either way, it made my skin crawl. Clutching the lamp, I edged toward the door, my heartbeat thrumming in my ears. I needed to see what was on the other side. Maybe confronting it would make the whispers stop. With each step, I felt heavier, paralyzed by fear, but driven by desperation. Then, I noticed something at the foot of the door. A glimmer caught my eye, a small piece of glass, like the shards from my earlier accident. My heart raced as dread washed over me. Could this be connected? I knelt down to inspect it, feeling a pulse of energy radiating from it. Suddenly, a sharp gasp echoed loudly in the room, causing me to jump back. The door rattled again, but this time it felt different. "Let us remember!" The voices chimed in unison, rising to a fever pitch. The door creaked so violently that I was sure it would shatter. In that moment, understanding rushed in. The glass had to hold more than just fragments of a broken past. It could be a gateway, a chance to uncover whatever it was that haunted me. But how? The journal was still open in my other hand, and a thought struck me. Patterns of the past often reveal themselves through writing. I flipped to a blank page and hurriedly jotted down everything I'd seen tonight. The glass, the figure, the whispers. I poured my fear and confusion onto the page, hoping for a connection, a sign. As I wrote, the whispers morphed again. "You've started the ritual," they hissed. "Continue. Only truth can save you." My eyes darted between the door and the journal, conflict roiling within me. If their words were true, I needed to engage with whatever was on the other side. I couldn't just stand here. There might be a way to confront this thing that had intruded on my life. The loud bang that followed shattered my resolve. The door splintered, and in that moment of vulnerability, I took a step toward it, clutching the journal. "If I'm going to face this, I'm not doing it empty-handed," I whispered, rallying my courage. Just as I reached for the handle, a chilling chill swept through the room. I opened the door, fueled by a mix of fear and determination. Revealing what lay beyond could be either my end or the beginning of my understanding. But nothing could prepare me for what awaited on the other side. My breath caught in my throat. There, standing in the moonlight, was the figure from my drawing. Only this time, it was not just ink on a page. It was real. In the dim light, I stood there, heart pounding, staring at the figure. It looked just like the drawing I had made weeks ago. Chills ran down my spine as I tried to make sense of it. Was this a ghost? A hallucination? The figure didn't move, but I could feel a presence emanating from it, a heaviness that pressed against my chest. I raised the lamp, quaking slightly in its glow. "Who are you?" I managed to ask, my voice barely a whisper. It felt like an eternity passed. But then the figure spoke. "I am the keeper of your truth." The flat tone sent shivers through me. I opened my mouth to respond, but no sound came out. Instead, the whispers grew louder, wrapping around me like a cocoon. "Remember," they urged. "You must remember." The figure's eyes, dark and deep, seemed to pull me in. I blinked and suddenly images flashed in my mind, memories I didn't recognize. A family gathered around a table, laughter echoing in warm sunlight. Another image, a younger me, tears streaming down my face in a darkened room. I staggered back as the memories collided, each one igniting a sense of loss that I didn't know I felt. "What are you?" I shouted, suddenly fueled by anger. "Why are you doing this?" "I am here to guide you," the figure replied, unwavering. "But you must first accept what has been buried." I needed to think clearly. This was too much. As if sensing my turmoil, the figure stepped forward into the light. It was a woman. At least I thought it was. Her features were blurred like a distorted reflection in water. My instincts screamed to run, but I was pinned in place. "Please, just tell me what you want," I yelled, desperation creeping into my voice. "Face your past," she urged. "Only then will you find peace." Suddenly I remembered the piece of glass on the floor. The shard reflected stars in its surface, and I felt drawn to it again. I glanced at it, then back at the figure. "Did you leave that for me?" The woman's brow furrowed slightly, as if I had asked a difficult question. "It's a connection," she said softly. "Your past leaked through the cracks, and I can help you mend them." With that, the door creaked wider, as if inviting me into a greater darkness. I had so many questions, but the urge to flee welled up again. Then the whispers shifted. "Trust her, but be prepared. The truth may hurt." Gathering my courage, I took a step closer to the figure. I didn't trust her, but something told me that I wouldn't find answers unless I confronted whatever truth I had buried deep inside. "Lead me," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. As she extended her hand, the air around us thickened. The room shifted and the shadows danced, swirling in preparation for a revelation that could unravel everything I thought I understood. But then, just as I reached out to take her hand, everything went dark. I woke up on the floor, heart racing. My lamp flickered but was still on. The figure was gone. I dragged myself up and looked around. Everything felt different, like the walls were closing in on me. I rubbed my eyes, trying to shake away the lingering heaviness in the air. The glass shard lay slightly further from me than before, glinting like a small star fallen from the night sky. I crawled towards it, the coolness of the tile against my skin grounding me. The memories had faded, yet their echoes danced in my mind, still refusing to reveal their secrets. Suddenly, a low creak echoed from the hallway. My pulse quickened. "Hello!" I called out, the word escaping shakily from my lips. No answer. I strained to listen, but the only sound was my own breathing. Then, I noticed something. An envelope slid partially under my door. The corner peeked out, almost taunting me. My heart thudded. I knew it wasn't there before. Hesitation gripped me, but something urged me forward. I approached with cautious steps, each one heavier than the last. As I bent down to pick it up, I saw my name written in a familiar flowing script. I didn't recognize it, but felt an odd sense of familiarity wash over me. I tore the envelope open, my hands shaking. Inside was a single sheet of paper, adorned with sketches of clouds, suns, and a daunting forest. My breath caught in my throat as I examined the drawings. And there, amongst the laughter and light, was a figure, the same one I had seen moments ago, now rendered in clear strokes. I flipped the paper over, scanning for more. It was blank, aside from 2 words scribbled at the bottom. "Find her." Terror gripped me, but curiosity tugged at the edges of my fear. Who was this figure? And who was I supposed to find? The glass shard on the floor seemed to call for me again. I had to answer these questions. The room felt smaller, the shadows creeping closer, and the crackling whispers swirled in the back of my mind. "Trust," they urged, catching me off guard. I took a deep breath, determined not to let fear paralyze me. Suddenly I remembered what the figure had said. Your past leaked through the cracks. My thoughts raced. Maybe my memories were linked to this drawing and the person I needed to find. "I can do this," I muttered under my breath. With a firm grip on the paper, I pushed myself up from the floor. Before I could gather another thought, the lights flickered out again. I stood frozen as the room plunged into darkness. Panic threatened to rise like an unwelcome tide. The whispers were louder now, echoing off the walls. But then, a soft glow emerged from the hallway, illuminating a shape that blurred in and out of focus. "Are you ready?" It was the figure, this time more defined but just as haunting. I swallowed hard, heart hammering in my chest. "Ready for what?" The light wavered, revealing that she was not alone. Other figures stood behind her, each shadowy and indistinct. I felt the chills seep into my bones as they began to step forward, their intentions inscrutable. "I'm afraid," I admitted, but I couldn't turn back. I had come too far. "Then move forward," the figure replied, reaching for me again. "You're closer than you think." That's when I saw it, the door behind her slightly ajar, beckoning me into the unknown. The whispers grew frantic, pushing me toward the light. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for whatever lay ahead. I could either stand still and suffocate in uncertainty, or step into the mystery. As I stepped closer to the door, a rush of energy tingled down my spine. The light from the hallway illuminated the figures more clearly now, each one an indistinct blur, but their presence felt significant. I took a tentative step, feeling the floor shift beneath me. The figure who first appeared reached out, her hand warm and inviting. "Step through," she urged softly. "We're waiting for you." I hesitated, caught between the safety of my dark room and the unknown on the other side. My mind raced. What if I walked into something worse? But what if I didn't? With a deep breath, I crossed the threshold. The moment I did, the door creaked shut behind me, sealing me into the glow. The air felt different out here, charged with a strange life of its own. I turned back instinctively, but the door was firmly closed, no sign of the dim room I'd left behind. A shiver ran through me. Before I could gather my thoughts, those shadowy figures slid closer, and I felt the undeniable pull of fear mixed with intrigue. "Who are you?" I asked. The words trembled on my lips. The original figure stepped forward and pointed to the sketches I had seen. "You've been searching for answers. We can help you find them." I focused on her face, which seemed familiar, yet foreign at the same time. "Find the girl?" I asked. "Is that me?" Her lips curved up slightly, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. "No. You need to find the one beyond the forest." "The forest?" I echoed, suddenly aware of the faint rustling sounds around me. I looked beyond the doorway, now revealed as an entry to a vast landscape. Tall trees stretched into the sky, their leaves shimmering like stars, and soft trails wound through a range of greens. A chill settled in my gut. What happens if I go in there? The figures exchanged glances, their faces flickering in the soft light. "You'll discover the key to your past. You have to trust us," she said firmly. "Trust?" I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "How am I supposed to do that? I don't even know you." The shadows shifted, revealing glimmers of light hidden in their forms. "We come from your past," the figure replied, "but not all the pieces are in play yet." I felt tears prick my eyes. "What does that mean?" "Just go," she insisted, her tone firm. "The forest will reveal what needs to be shown, but time is running out." Before I could question her further, I caught sight of movement beyond the trees. Something was out there, watching. My breath caught as I tried to make out the figure on the edge of the forest. "Go!" the voice echoed, and the urgency snapped me out of my trance. I stepped forward, heart racing as the space around me shifted, the gravity of my decisions weighing heavier. Just before I plunged into the unfamiliar embrace of the forest, I glanced back. The figures stood in an expectant line, the original one tilting her head as if they were waiting for something to happen. Then, I heard it, a low growl, echoing like thunder through the trees, followed by a burst of heavy footsteps pounding in my direction. I had taken a step into the unknown, and in that moment the shadows were the least of my worries. I turned and ran, the weight of my past heavy on my shoulders, but the hunt was just beginning. I sprinted into the forest, branches clawing at my skin as I pushed through. The growl echoed behind me, a haunting promise that whatever it was, it wouldn't stop. My heart raced, not just from running, but from the fear that gripped me tightly. I couldn't afford to look back, not now. The trees stood tall, twisting above me like ancient giants. The path twisted ahead, and I had to make a choice. A wider trail veered left, but it felt too exposed. A narrow path to the right looked dense, more confining. I hesitated, unsure which route offered better chances for escape. Then I heard it again, the growl, closer this time, mingling with the sound of heavy, pounding feet. Without thinking, I darted down the narrow path, squeezing between the thick trunks. The woods closed in around me, dark and silent except for the rush of my breath. Just as I thought I might have gained some distance, I stumbled into a small clearing. The moonlight filtered down, casting an ethereal glow over a glittering pool of water in the center. Calmness radiated from it, a stark contrast to the chaos in my mind. I felt drawn to the water, my fear momentarily overshadowed by a strange curiosity. Who was I really looking for? What were the figures trying to show me? My reflection rippled in the surface, but it didn't look quite right. An unfamiliar girl stared back at me. "Where are you?" I whispered, gripping the edge of the pool. Without warning, the growl returned, this time sounding like it came from the edge of the clearing. Panic surged anew. I turned, heart thumping in my chest as the figure emerged from the shadows. It was massive, like a dark wolf, but with glowing eyes that seemed to pierce right through me. I froze, unable to move. Then it spoke, and the sound took me off guard. "You shouldn't have come here." Its voice was low and gravelly, almost human. "Why not?" I managed to stammer, trying to suppress the tremor in my voice. "What do you want from me?" "You're searching for something you cannot find," it said, stepping closer. "The girl you see in the water, she holds the answers, but not all answers are safe to know." That hit me hard. I glanced back at my reflection. What did I need to know? What did it mean? Before I could process further, the wolf figure moved again, and I caught a hint of movement behind it, a flicker of something light against the trees. "Don't trust," it began, but I didn't stay to hear the end. I bolted past it, rushing around the pool and back toward the narrow path I had come from. I felt its presence behind me, the earth thrumming under its weight, but I pushed the fear down. I knew I had to keep moving. Whatever it wanted from me, I wasn't ready for it. Then everything changed. The ground began to shift beneath me, the path splintering into different directions. I stumbled, trying to steady myself as a blinding light erupted ahead. Out of instinct, I turned toward it, praying that maybe, just maybe, it was a way out. With the shadow hot on my heels, I charged into the unfamiliar light, and my heart raced with every step. Would I find answers, or was this only the beginning of a nightmare? I stumbled into the light, the brightness enveloping me like a warm embrace that both terrified and comforted. It felt surreal, a world separate from the dark forest, where shadows loomed with every step. In an instant, I reappeared inside a small room bathed in soft golden hues. The scent of salt water lingered in the air, oddly reminiscent of the beach I thought I had left behind. This new space was quirkily decorated with seashells and faded photographs of people smiling at the ocean. It felt familiar, yet foreign. I turned to find the shadowy figure from before standing just beyond the threshold, its form wavering like a candle flame. "Welcome," it said, voice smooth as silk. "You've been searching for pieces of yourself, but the cost may be high." "What do you mean?" I asked, confusion swirling in my mind. "Where is this? Why did you bring me here?" "This is where truths collide," it said, stepping closer. "You seek the girl from the water, but uncovering her may bring more than just clarity." Before I could ask more questions, the image of the girl appeared in my mind again, the one in the reflection of the pool, whose eyes were so deeply sad yet knowing. "Is she me?" I asked, struggling to maintain my composure. The figure tilted its head, eyes flashing. "The past is not always a straight path. To find her, you must confront what you have buried. Remember, understanding comes at a price." The words churned through my mind as I thought of every haunting whisper, each scrape against the walls of my psyche. The unrelenting shadow behind me threatened to close in once more, and a sudden urgency surged through me. How do I confront it? What do I need to do? "You've already begun," said the figure, gesturing to the room. "All the pieces are scattered just like the shells surrounding you. They hold memories, but not all of them are yours to reclaim." Just as it finished, the room darkened momentarily, my surroundings shifting like tides. Shadows swirled around the edges, and I glanced at the ground where scattered shells formed shifting patterns, whispering secrets in a language I couldn't discern. "The truth, they say, will set you free," the figure murmured, "but the weight of that truth can bind you deeper." Swallowing hard, I crouched down to examine the closest shell. It was a vibrant blue, unlike any I had seen, and as I touched it, memories washed over me. Warm laughter, distant voices, sun-soaked afternoons. Flashes of joy mingled with painful echoes of loss and sorrow. I shuddered, overwhelmed by the tumultuous waves of emotion. "How do I know what belongs to me and what doesn't?" I gasped. "You'll feel it." The figure's voice was soothing, yet the shadows shimmered dangerously nearby. Let them in, but only as much as you can bear. With trepidation, I reached for another shell, this one dull and cracked. As I touched it, a deep ache resounded through me. I saw a glimpse of a memory, myself as a child standing alone in a room, tears streaming down my face. I felt the corrosion of abandonment, a splintering pain that made me want to recoil. Before I could pull back, images warped into each other, and a voice, a young girl's voice, rose from the shell. Why did you leave? Panic welled up within me. I didn't leave anyone, I shouted, the weight of guilt pressing down violently. The shadows loomed closer, and in desperation I tossed the shell aside, shaking my head. The figure observed silently, compassion radiating from its form, yet it stood motionless as I wrestled with the memories. You are stronger than you think, it whispered when I hesitated. Do not reject who you were. Embrace it. With a trembling breath, I gathered my courage, picking up the vibrant blue shell again. This time, I let my mind open fully, welcoming whatever emerged. Images flickered before me. A sunlit home, friends laughing, carefree moments, then a crushing darkness again. I felt my heart tighten. This time I remained rooted, letting the emotions flow through every crack and crevice of my being. I wanted to confront the pain, to see why it lingered still. I found myself whispering, I'm sorry, to the girl inside the shell. I didn't want to leave you. I needed to survive. The air shimmered, the shadows shifting and writhing nearer. Keep going, the figure urged, its presence warming the dark edges of my mind. Face what you need to confront. Just then, another shell caught my eye, one that sparkled brightly in the room's glow. I reached for it cautiously. As my fingers brushed the surface, an image flashed. A vision of a girl standing on the beach, me, as I was about to take my first step in a great unknown. With that thought, I felt the shadows pulling back slightly. Courage blossomed within me. I can do this. As I gathered the shells and memories, the room around me began to dissolve, the shadows receding as I pushed forward into a deeper understanding of myself. I was faced with remnants of joy and pain, but they felt less daunting now. It was a part of me. Reveal the truth of the girl, my voice steadied, and I will reclaim what belongs to me. The memories surged forward, even the painful ones, mingling with newfound strength. I could feel the pull of the ocean, an ancient rhythm guiding me deeper. But as the light began to strengthen, so did a shadow. Overarching and menacing, it loomed, ready to swallow me whole again. And just like that, I was thrust back into the world, into the forest of shadows. But this time I held the shells tightly. The truth was mine now. With clarity and purpose, I whispered into the darkness, I'm no longer afraid. The figures, the shadows, they awaited my decision, and I promised myself not to turn back again. As the growls rumbled through the air, I felt the force of determination surge within me. I would confront the girl in the water, and together we would find peace. But one question still remained. Would I emerge from this journey unscathed? Or would the truth become my final test?